Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of The Road to Gen Con. That's right, 'tis the season. Wargaming Christmas is upon us. Come August, Gen Con will arrive, and with it, all of the wargaming goodies that we save all of our precious monies for. Today we're discussing Corvus Belli Studio Update, the first of what I assume will be a long string of marketing for Corvus Belli and other wargaming companies leading up to Wargaming Christmas, aka Gen Con. So we're talking about the important story beats here. We're hitting Aristea, we're talking new Aleph, we're talking Debak, we're talking reinforcements. Roll the intro. Welcome to Corner Case, the channel for wargamers by wargamers, and you're in the hobby corner with me, your host, your K-pop stan, and your best friend, Deck. So the first topic, of course, is Aristea. While Carlos did not share any specific imagery of Aristea updates, he did go on to say that Aristea was coming back in a big way, but was very ambiguous about what that means. I'm kind of excited apprehensively because I have seen that in the last, at least as long as I have been following Corvus Belli, so for the last 2 years, that game hasn't really been getting the most love, and I can see why. As you know, a small company, they're spreading their resources to try and target a lot of these Kickstarter games, updating Infinity. They definitely have a lot on their plate, but everybody that I know that plays Aristea loves that game. So I have always been interested in getting in, and at this point I have been purchasing like some of the models and the skins to support Infinity, but I actually haven't purchased the box set yet. So is this a good time to jump in? It seems like they have a sale running until circa the end of July, which is like a little bit before Gen Con. So who knows, are those updates coming before, after, during Gen Con? He kind of said in the video, but I kind of feel like it's a little bit up in the air based on the ambiguity. So I thought it was worth mentioning because personally I am pretty interested in Aristea, and I do hope that it, blossoms or maintains a momentum, because I've just heard so many great things about that game, and I am a fan of the board game format. Next, Carlos goes on to talk about the tournament results. While I'm not particularly interested in the specifics of the results, I do want to give Corvus Belli a shout out for consistently putting its community on display in this way. Because I feel like not every company, though they would have potentially the means, does do that. For example, I feel like when it comes to 40K community, I think most of the way that the community interacts with the greater 40K community, the way they interact with the competitive community is by, seeing the videos online of people talking about tactics, seeing bat reps, seeing discussion of rules, a lot of discussion of rules, seeing the FAQs come in, right? So for the non-tournament player, I feel like the interaction with the competitive community is a little bit abstracted. But by Infinity, by Corvus Belli putting their greater competitive scene and by region on display in this way, it kind of makes that competitive community like more tangible. It turns them into real people, not just this ambiguous force that's driving the course of the rules design. And it does also, it's kind of rewarding to see people in your local area being recognized in this way. So really, I think great community approach from CB to show their Infinity competitive community in this way consistently throughout their studio updates. I'm digging it. I love seeing it. There's these people in Michigan who have like a heavyweight world title belt for their tournament, and oh my goodness, like that should totally be a thing. We should all have one per region, and we should try to take them off of each other, like take the sign off their dojo, Now, I won't bore you with the specifics of the July releases that Carlos then goes on to talk about, except my agenda, which is the stigmata. I did a poll on the channel, which people were more excited about, the new Oyoroi or the new stigmata, and I was extremely disappointed to find that the stigmata lost. But look at the paint job they did on this thing. It's so cool. They just painted like such a clean reflection on that halo behind it. Oh man, I'm like so excited to paint this thing. And you know what? Just for shits, time of recording, I have a poll up right now. If you check the community tab, a vote, or in the comments down below, which do you think looks better, the new Stigmata or the old Lizard? I'm pretty interested. I'm on the fence. I think I have my, but I'm not going to bias you. I think they're both sick. Vote. And finally, the meat and potatoes of this update. First up, we have Daebak Force, which are the Korean reinforcements to the Yujing army. Now, I think first I'll just say I'm super excited to have a greater Korean representation in the game. I'm very interested to see how Corvus Belli executes this. I'm kind of interested specifically because, Corvus Belli's, the way they've historically managed Infinity, the world, is kind of like a pseudo future setting historical, so like a lot of the armies are, based on or referencing armies of the current contemporary day or past of real history. So what approach will they take when they design this Korean army? Are they going to reference Korean armies of the past? In which case, like what time period? Within my context of American history, I only know about the Korean War. So, are there other conflicts, that Corvus Belli may be referencing, or, will they not be referencing anything and just be making up new? I think it would be interesting to see an approach where they reference a little bit less. I think in general, historical war games have kind of fallen out of fashion. And I think part of that is, the closeness of some of the conflicts. For example, a stylistic choice that Corvus Belli continues to make is the use of the Imperial Japanese flag for the JSA army. And for most people, this might not mean much, but for a lot of Asian people, and I mean Asians in general, because in World War II, Japan was I think the only real Axis power, but the other Asian countries were not as involved. But a lot of Asian countries were in conflict with Japan during World War II. So a lot of Asian grandparents would probably have an averse reaction to seeing the Imperial Japanese flag. For example, my grandma has stories of hiding underneath dead bodies, from Axis soldiers back then. And I know I'm not the only one. Other Asian American friends have commented on the use of this symbol. And so, that's all just to say that, historical reference, sometimes the reference can be kind of close. And so I'm wondering, the Korean War was even more recent than World War II. Would it be sensitive to make that type of reference? So are they making any reference? Are they making, a farther back, more ancient, reference? We'll see. I'm very interested. Of course, there's also the idea that they just, come out with a boy band. So, BTS. Biotechnical shield. Next, if we zoom out a little bit, I think it's important to talk about reinforcements as a mechanic. So Corvus Belli's been teasing reinforcements over the last couple studio updates, and I'm kind of interested in kind of what this all means. So there's a couple components I want to discuss. The first is obviously the gameplay component. So the way Carlos is talking about it here, I presume this is the most up-to-date information about reinforcements is, this week's studio update. The way he talks about it is that reinforcements are a group of units that are available to sectorials, within an army. So Daebak would be available reinforcements to sectorials within Yujing. So he kind of listed out, here you have ISS, you have Invincible Army, you have White Banner, and all of those will have access to Daebak Force. He said, look at Ariadna. Ariadna has access to keep the Merovingian flavored reinforcements. So immediately, from a gameplay perspective, what I'm seeing is an expansion of available models to sectorial armies. So anytime you're expanding the total available number of units, this is just me coming from Magic and coming from Malifaux second edition, an expanded card pool, an expanded unit pool can mean a higher power potential, right? So is this from a gameplay perspective something that CB is doing to address what I think is kind of the power discrepancy between, what is a vanilla army in Infinity right now and what is a sectorial army? So does it kind of address that? Does it hint that, in vanilla armies may be going out of fashion soon? I don't think so, because I think, while vanilla armies are heavily utilized in competitive play, I think that the ultimate reason for them to exist is as a courtesy by Corvus Belli to make their game more accessible, aka if you're getting into the game and you just bought the units because you thought they looked cool and then later decided you wanted to play, there's a way for you to play like your pile of random Infinity models, at least within the same army. So I think for that reason they might stay, but expanding the available unit pool for sectorials to boost their power level, I think, is definitely a good move to maybe address what might be a power balance issue between, the available unit pool of vanilla versus the very limited pool of each sectorial army. So I think it seems like a pretty good thing already. Carlos uses language like, and I don't know if this is lost in translation, like saying like the second punch, so I don't understand if maybe and I don't want to really speak to it, is if, there is a timing or like the way they're deployed in game, if there's an implication there. But at least, greater available unit pool to sectorial armies to potentially boost their power potential, I think is a pretty good idea. And I'm pretty excited about it. From a business perspective, I think it's very interesting. If you look at the trend here, what they have shown us is, they've shown us that, Combined Army is potentially getting this extra reinforcement group. Yujing is getting this new Debak Force reinforcement group, and Ariadna is getting this Merovingian flavored reinforcement group. So, extra. I don't know about N2 or anything, but it seems like a lot of people were familiar when that was announced. Couple months ago or last month, a lot of people were familiar with extra from the lore. It seems like Debak is potentially new, and it seems like the Merovingian, obviously that's like, just an out of print sectorial army right now. So reinforcements, kind of makes me wonder, is this a way for Corvus Belli to kind of back into filling in some of their out of print armies? So if you look at, the trend here, Merovingian Guard, rapid response force, and Murph is out of print, right? So they're creating Murph in such a way that any Ariadna player might buy it because it's a reinforcement to their army. So they're kind of addressing their SKU count by, maybe they can't justify more sectorials because they're going to water down, like every sectorial is going to get fewer sales every time they release a new sectorial. But if they release a unit that is available for all sectorials within the army, then they have a way of reintroducing an army that is out of print, but also without diluting their overall sales. So I think, if you look at that trend, you look at, Pan-Oceania. What reinforcements is Pano going to get? Well, there are, at least 2 out of print armies for Pano, right? So is it going to be NC Neo-Terran Capital Line Army? Is it going to be Acon Tissamento? I think Acon is probably a pretty big contender for that spot. I think it's like that. I think they, from a business wise, they may be using the reinforcements rule as a way to backfill their out of print armies without diluting sales. So overall, I'm like very supportive of reinforcements just from reading between the lines. Like they're using this one rule to address, potentially the power balance discrepancy between a vanilla army and a sectorial army, and they're trying to backfill their out of print armies, which a lot of people, myself included, are interested in, but in such a way that still makes sense for their business. So will it ultimately feel good on the tabletop? I feel like is going to be the clincher. It's either going to break the game or people are going to love it. There's not really like an in-between, I don't think, when it comes to the internet discourse. So from a high level, on paper, I have so many reasons to be supportive and to be stoked about it. And finally, we get to, the overall bundle that will be released at Gen Con. It looks like this is the first year in a while that we're not getting an operation box. So, pictures on the screen here, but it looks like we're getting an assortment of models, a book that describes, advancements in the lore, which I always love when rules updates are paired with significant lore updates, and and the reinforcement rule. I think what excites me a lot though is Carlos makes it a point to show on the cover Maximus, who's an Aristea character, is on the front of this book. As you know, as an Aleph player, he mentions that Maximus is an Aleph unit, and I'm excited because I don't think that I'm wishlisting right now. I'm hoping that Maximus represents not reinforcements to Aleph, but a new Aleph sectorial. Because at this time, we only have 2 sectorial armies for Aleph. We have Steel Phalanx and we have Operations Subsection, right? And Aleph is already powerful enough in vanilla with that available unit pool, but that's only 2 sectorial armies, and I can't think of another army within Infinity that only has 2 sectorials. I think this is the only one. If you look at the color scheme here, granted it's very skewed by the lighting, but the purple on Maximus here is looking a little bit pinker, I think, than other purples. And I think they've been pretty deliberate about showing different purples on their units for Aleph, especially recently. I don't know if that's a function of different studio painters, but you can also see that there's like an accent of green on here, and that definitely is not something that we have seen before on Aleph colorways. So, is this new? Does Maximus represent a reinforcement army for Aleph, or does Maximus represent a brand new sectorial? Aleph players such as myself can only hope for the most significant update possible. Let me know in the comments though what you guys think. I am by no means an expert on the total Infinity information pool. I do my best, but I don't have that many years into it. So let me know if you guys know something that I don't know. But overall, I'm pretty excited. So we'll see. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you appreciate what we're doing, if you enjoy what we're doing on the channel here, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, consider joining the Discord or the Patreon, and take us to the money zone, baby. I'd like to extend a big corner case thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. You are what make this channel possible. And an extended thank you to everyone who supports the channel in non-monetary ways. Building community is absolutely the best part of the hobby. Back to the show.
Venerate the Emperor by subscribing now. Only in death does subscribing end.